James, I know you guys had said before you wanted to get, the younger quarterbacks in at some point, but the situations haven't been there. How have you seen them progress? How's Trace look? If you get a shot to go on Saturday, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, if we have to play our second quarterback, we'll play our second quarterback. We will not play Trace if it's mop-up duty. Crooks would go in that situation. So if we have to play a second quarterback to win the game, at this point it'll be Trace McSorley. If it's the end of the game to clean up and finish a game, then that would be DJ Crooks.
So the idea is to attempt to redshirt him still, or am I?
Correct.
Okay.
Unless we need him to win the game.
The running game has produced a lot of carries. Are you still trying to get all three guys? That's the plan. Even if the running game struggles, you have to throw the ball more.
Yeah, we're gonna each week we're gonna try to establish the running game. Each of those backs will get a series, and whoever looks like they're the most effective will go from there. Obviously, we're not just going to keep trying to run the ball in the game if we're not having success. We're going to do whatever we got to do to win the game.
To kind of follow that up, James, some coaches will use, I guess, the short pass game to augment that running game when it's not going. Do you buy into that, and how would you evaluate maybe your short passing game at this point?
Yeah, I think that's what we've been doing all year long. I mean, all the screens and things like that we've been doing. That's a way to supplement your passing game and also help with some of your protection issues to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands.
James, when you grade your O-line, do you kind of have to do it on a curve, so to speak, because you knew going in it didn't have a whole lot of experience?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say a curve, but you're realistic and you have an idea of where you started and where you're at now. And our most important thing, our focus is we just got to get better every single day and every single week and every single practice. And I think we're doing that. I think we were pretty realistic at where we were at coming in. And I think they've improved, and I think we're making really good progress. And I think we got some talented guys. We just got to keep grinding through this. This isn't the first time we've been through something like this, and it'll get worked out.
We'll talk to Terry Smith tomorrow morning on a conference call. How has he assimilated himself with this staff? Obviously, outside of Charles Huff, he's the only guy not, from Vanderbilt at all. How has he sort of grown to be a part of this?
Well, even Charles was with us at our last place. He had just left for a year to go to the Buffalo Bills. So, and Charles was with us even before that. So, Terry's done a great job. I think the fact that he knew a bunch of the guys on the staff already, before taking the job, I think that was helpful. I think the fact that he's so familiar with Penn State and our history and our traditions and the community, I think that's helped his transition. So although he may be new to us, he's not new to Penn State. A lot of times when you take a new job, you're not only adjusting to new people and a new staff and new players, but you're also adjusting to a new area, for those things. So I think there's a comfort level, and Terry's been in the state, not just going to school here, but he's been in the state as a high school coach and as a college coach as well. So he's got a lot of familiarity, which I think helps.
A lot of these players this week have talked about the work Deshaun's put in the offseason. His dad was a former Marine. Do you know his...
Say that again, I'm sorry?
Deshaun. A lot of these guys have talked about the work he's put in the offseason, his discipline. His dad was a former Marine. Do you know his parents at all, and can you kind of tell that maybe he's got a little bit more discipline about him as a younger guy than what a kid would normally have at his age?
Not well enough to speak on it. Yeah, obviously the fact only being here 7 or 8 months, trying to get to know 125 guys as well as their parents, I can't speak on that, like I'd like to.
James, Miles back in pads. I don't know how long he's been in pads, but how's he been progressing? Do you foresee him playing later this year?
He's doing great.
There were a lot of talk about Bob Sheep this week. Does his aggressive style kind of jive with your defensive philosophies and your offensive and special teams philosophies?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, everybody on the staff, from an offense, defense, from a special teams philosophy, that's why they're here, because we all kind of align with how we see the game being played and how we want to play it. That was a part of the interview process. That was part of studying his history and his background, all those types of things. So I've been really pleased. I think he's doing a great job for us, and we're going to continue to do that.
You've obviously already played a Big Ten game this season, but this is the last game before you're stuck playing in the Big Ten for the rest of the year. or except for Temple, actually thinking about it, are there things that you want to see this week, knowing that you're going into the Big Ten schedule that maybe you didn't have to worry about a couple weeks ago?
We're not really looking at anything else besides our opponent this week. We don't do that. We're excited about who we're playing this week and getting prepared to play them, which is UMass, and we're not looking ahead or thinking about any of those other things.
I guess let me rephrase it because I kind of botched that one. We're talking about like the checkpoints, the kinds of things that you want to see your team be able to do this week, knowing that now that once you finish with the UMass, you're headed into Big Ten play.
Again, I don't think like that. I don't think about kind of after this game. I'm just worried about UMass and getting better in all three phases, continuing to build confidence, continue to have success, eliminate some of the things that we've been working on, which are penalties and turnovers. Creating big plays, same things I talk about in the press conference every single week. So we're 100% focused on UMass, and then after that, you guys or Jeff will tell me who we're playing, and we'll start focusing on that game. But we don't look at it that way.
What do you guys do to work on penalties in practice? And it might sound like a ridiculous question, but turnovers are pretty obvious. What do you do penalty-wise?
Well, I think having the officials at practice is really important. I usually ask them then to practice anything they saw or anything we need to do to look at or clean up, any things to be aware of. A lot of times you'd be amazed. These guys watch the games, as well, and they could give us some feedback from that perspective. I want them to throw flags. A lot of times these guys come to practice and they just tell you, well, he was offsides there. Well, I don't want you to tell me. I want you to throw the flag so we know what's going on and what you would call in the game. So I think that's helpful. And then just emphasizing it in practice. A lot of times, it's also the running back. Making sure the running back is reading it the right way. The running back bounces the ball when it shouldn't be bounced. They're going to create holding. Because what happens is the lineman's trying to create movement, then all of a sudden the ball bounces outside and the defender tries to break away and they hold on to try to help. So there's a lot of things that go into it. And like always, everybody's trying to eliminate the penalties that are pre-snap and post-snap, which I think for the most part we've done a pretty good job.
You've talked a lot about Mike Hull being a leader over on defense. Who are some of the other guys stepping up in that regard? Because it seems like you have some pretty strong personalities on that side.
Yeah, I think Mike Hull for sure. I think Kaiser for sure. I think Amos in his own ways, kind of a quiet leadership. I think Dion is doing some really nice things from a leadership perspective as well. So I think we got some more veteran guys that have played on that side of the ball, and I think Mike, more than anything, is how he works every single day and his approach to the game. He's the same guy every single day. It's very, very important to him. He wants to be great. He's willing to work to be great, and I think it's a great example for our young guys. We talk about all the time about leaving a legacy, and leaving a legacy is not just in statistics. It's about how you work. You want to be one of those guys that the freshmen now are talking about for the next 4 years. You should have seen how Mike Hull worked out in the offseason. You should have seen how Mike Hull lifted. You should have seen how Mike Hull practiced. How much time he spent watching film, those types of things. You leave a legacy in terms of your reputation and how you prepared.
Ryan Kaiser's a guy who maybe flies under the radar a little bit, but how does he fit into that category as far as leadership, personality, and stuff on the defense?
I think really well. He's kind of an interesting guy. He's very mature. I mean, you guys know he's married, which is unique in this part of the country. He's very, very mature. He's very, very disciplined. He's kind of steady Eddie. You always know what you're going to get. And he makes a bunch of plays for us. I think that interception, his discipline allowed him to make that play the other night. But I've been really, really pleased with him and with his approach and his demeanor.
James, from what you do know about Deshaun as far as personality-wise, I mean, it seems like a pretty bright kid,
very sharp.
Personable. What has kind of struck you about his personality, if anything?
Well, he's very confident. He's really kind of his own man, which I really kind of appreciate. He's got probably a little bit different personality and different style, and he owns that, and I like that about him. The other thing is, like you mentioned before, from an intelligence standpoint, that was something that jumped out very early on. Even without having the reps that we wanted him to have in the spring, he knew the offense pretty much inside and out, could play any of the three positions for the wide receivers. So that always makes it easier for a guy that hasn't done it physically if he's able to really learn. Some guys learn differently. Some guys learn by the playbook and watching film. Some guys need to actually go out and do it on the field. He was able to learn it without actually coming out and doing it on the field physically.
Take 2 more.
You talked about special teams sort of being in the middle, positive, not positive, not negative. But what would you like to see out of your punt return game this week? Have you been happy with that? Would you like to see more? It's been a lot of fair catches.
Yeah, I think right now that's kind of who we are. That kind of is what it is. We started out with Jordan Lucas earlier in the year. Trying to create some more playmaking ability back there. I think Jesse's done a great job in terms of decision making and things like that, except for maybe one last week. That his decision making was really good, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
How's Ficken been driving the ball on kickoffs? Is there anybody else that's getting reps there that they can perform that well?
No, Ficken's done a nice job. We're going to have to improve. I think we've made some adjustments this week that I think are going to help us from here out going forward. But the guys that we have behind them, all we have is true freshmen that right now we're planning on redshirting. We got we got one guy that I think is the closest to maybe being able to help, but we'd like to probably redshirt him with Ficken being so consistent right now. And then we got probably 3 or 4 freshmen that just joined us this week, but they're just not physically ready yet. About 100 and, how much you weigh?
155.
You got about 20 pounds on these guys. So they're just not ready yet. They need a little time in the weight room to marinate with Coach Galt, and then they'll be ready to go.
Did you say they just joined you this week?
Yeah, we had I think we had about 10 to 12 guys that joined the team this week. We didn't have a tryout. We had a tryout yesterday, but these were guys that were planning on joining the team. We just from compliance paperwork and physicals and a lot of stuff, once school gets started, being away for that first game made it difficult to get a lot of that stuff done. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.